G'day gamers, Aussie Wargamer here in Moree, Australia, and welcome to my channel. So tonight I'm going to do a live stream, probably be hanging out for an hour or so. Going to do these longer form videos, probably about once a month, and we'll just chat, we'll hobby, we'll talk about particular topics. There may be guests every now and then, but tonight I want to have a chat about the LVO reveals and the big things that came out of that. Age of Sigmar, we got some little tastes, but we didn't get anything particularly major, but I'll chat about that in a minute. Also want to talk about my upcoming hobby projects, what I'm working on at the moment and what I'm going to be working on in the future. So there's some really cool stuff that I'm excited about. I'm going to talk a little bit about the tournament that I'm trying to get going in Tamworth, where that's up to, and where we're heading with the channel. So should be online for about an hour or so, just hanging out and having a chat. Feel free to drop any comments down below or as you're watching it in the chat. So at the moment, I'm doing a bunch of terrain. We've got Kill Team and Necromunda at the club, and I haven't really painted a whole lot of terrain for it. So I've been working on some cool industrial terrain, done a couple of pieces at the moment. So I've got this fella going on tonight, which is what I'll be working on. So I have access to a laser cutter, which is really cool. And so these designs I found on Thingiverse. Really cool design. Cut it out. I've got a rivet mold. So molded a whole bunch of rivets and bolts. And I don't know if you can see, but I've stuck some bolts down the side there. So I'll be painting this up tonight. And the first step is over the black base is a mid-brown overbrush. I like this stuff. Vallejo Game Color BC Brown. It's pretty much the same as the old Bestial Brown from back in the day. I don't know what it's called now, but I like this stuff, so I'm going to give it an overbrush with that. Also been working on a bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff, putting together some of my old models and stripping some of my old models. So I've got this big guy at the moment, the Balrog. Did a fairly rough strip, didn't try and clean it too well, but this was probably the first sort of major conversion that wasn't a head swap that I did, like back in 2001 maybe, when the game came out. Yeah, 2001 is probably right. And so I made him, I sort of sculpted more to his head, made him look this way, sort of did some stuff with his wrist, bent his tail around a little bit, and converted him there. Paint job was pretty ordinary because it was, yeah, one of the first, or within the first year of me painting miniatures. So I stripped him back and I just rebuilt him and filled in some of the gaps and stuff. So I'll tackle him later on. And then I've also been working on a Vamp Lord on Zombie Dragon as a commission for someone at the club. And I generally don't like doing commissions. I like to sort of hobby for myself, but I would much prefer to play against painted miniatures. And if I have to paint my opponent's miniatures, if that's what it'll take, then that's what it will take. So that's what I've been working on, which is cool. In terms of future projects, I've got a whole bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff that I want to do. So I've got the Pelennor Fields box set, which is a really cool box set, plenty of good stuff in there. And then I've got, yeah, a whole bunch of old models from when I first started the hobby that need love and attention. And yeah, I'd love to, the end goal, and hopefully we can get it done this year, is to sort of play through perhaps Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, and have all the models and terrain and stuff to play through the Fellowship of the Ring source book from back in the day, which would be cool. So I don't have a lot to do. I've got the ring rays I need to get. I ordered 4 of the named ring rays, the ones that come both on foot and mounted and are ridiculously expensive but really cool. And then I should be able to supplement them with what I already have to make up the full 9, both mounted and on foot, which would be cool. I've got, of the Fellowship, most of it I was happy with. Most of what I already had I was happy with. But I stripped down Gimli, I stripped down Boromir, I stripped down Merry, and I stripped down Pippin. And so I've got to paint those, and then I'll have all the Fellowship done as well. So I'm really keen to get into the Lord of the Rings. I want to paint up the Pelennor Fields box set as well and get that done nice and early, so it's not just sitting in my pile of stuff to do. In terms of Age of Sigmar, I've got a couple of army projects that I've been thinking about. The first one is Flesh Eater Courts. I sort of had an idea of doing it before the book was announced, but I built a test model and converted a test model, but I just don't know that it's going to be viable. My idea is going to be viable across an entire army. So what I wanted to do was have half the model as the reality and half the model as the delusion, and have like maybe a sort of a pale blue line in between to distinguish the two, the reality and the delusion. But it's going to be, firstly, it's going to be a lot of work. A lot of hobby work, a lot of hours that I just don't know that I'm ready to commit to at this point. And I'm not feeling the army at the moment. It's not exciting me. I think it'll be a really cool hobby project, and it'd certainly be one that would turn heads, I think, if I could get it right. But I just don't feel like I can invest the time in it at the moment. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about the LVO reveals, and particularly Warcry, because I think that's going to help in a lot of that kind of area. So I think I'm going to shelve the Flesh Eater Courts idea, and I think I'm going to finish my Tzeentch. So I started a Tzeentch army last year. The concept behind it is that it's based on 4 Egyptian gods. So my Lord of Change is based on Horus. My Gaunt Summoner is based on Isis. My Changeling is based on Anubis. And my, what's the other one that I had? Thoth. So Curthling based on Anubis, and my Changeling based on Thoth. So I've built a lot of those. I've built most of my Lord of Change. I've built my Gaunt Summoner. I've built and painted 10 horrors that have all been converted, and I have built all of my Zangor. I think I've done 20 Zangor, and I've got him here, I painted a Zangor test model. So I went with brown skin. Is that going to focus? It's not. And through Tomb King's shield in there, and a sort of a Tomb King's scythe kind of sword, just to play up on that Egyptian theme. And then I've used Green Stuff World Egyptian rollers on the base. That was an army idea that I was super excited about last year, and sort of started very passionately, but then it fell by the wayside a little bit, as projects can do from time to time. But Yeah, I think I'll finish that. I think it'll be a really cool army once it's done. I think it's going to be hard to play. I've got an idea on how to do it, and it's all based on sort of hero phase mortal wounds. I don't know that I've played a test game at 2,000 points, but my 1,500 point test games have been fairly positive. The mortal wound output, like the hero phase wound output of the army, is huge, and Lord of Change with cogs, getting that extra spell, and then taking the artifact where he gets 2 fate points per spell rather than 1, because he automatically rolls doubles, is really, really good. And from turn 2, you can sort of summon something on, even if it's just 10 blues, pretty much every turn. Or screamers. I was summoning on screamers to grab objectives or to tie units up. They're pretty useless. Like, they're not amazing in terms of damage output, or they're not very survivable, but they're quick, and so you can sort of throw them out there as a bit of a speed bump, or to grab those objectives. So that's cool. I liked what I was doing with them, but they just sort of fell by the wayside. So I'm going to pick those back up. Maybe I'm going to start as a skirmish force and then move up, or you know what, I might just do the models that I feel like doing. I've got a 1,500 point list and a 2,000 point list. If I can't nail down some stuff for Country Carnage, which I'll talk about later on, I might think about getting a 1,500 point army done for that. But we'll see. We'll see how we go. I'm pretty keen for Lord of the Rings at the moment. Really stoked on that, and very much looking forward to getting back into that game, because that's really what introduced me into the hobby in the first place, was Lord of the Rings. When it first came out, I've always been a big fan of the books. My mum put me onto them when I was about 12, and I loved them. And then the films, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I was really stoked on back in the day as well. And I rewatched them, and they hold up, except for the Return of the King having so many endings. I certainly agree with the criticism there, that there were just way too many endings. I think, if you're not doing the Scouring of the Shire, which is fine not to do, because, it adds a little bit to the character of the hobbits, but they don't need any more added to their character. Like at the end of the Return of the King, when they at Aragorn's coronation, when they bow to Aragorn and they stand up, and Aragorn says, "My friends, you bow to no one." Like, that's their moment. That's the end of that character arc. And we know that these guys are badasses, right? We know that these guys are awesome. So you don't need the Scouring of the Shire, particularly since they wanted to have Grima stab or kill Saruman, like, at Orthanc. That makes sense to have it there for the story that they were telling. But yeah, I think they could have ended it there. Like, at the end of the coronation, it pans out, the music plays. That easily could have been the end. But no, they go back to the Shire, and they have that whole ending, and then they have the whole Grey Havens ending, which, granted, is a nice little wrap up for Gandalf and for the elves. But But I just think largely it was unnecessary. And then, you had Sam going home and giving Rosie a smooch and that kind of stuff. So aside from the too many endings, I was really sold on those movies. So yeah, very, very keen to get the Lord of the Rings stuff happening. And Zinch will be fun. So let's turn our attention, nearly finished with this brown. Let's turn our attention to the LVO reveals and what is going on there and the cool stuff that they showed us. So as I said, for Age of Sigmar, it was very much just it was a bit of a tease, really. There was nothing huge that was revealed except for perhaps Khorne's endless spells or prayers or whatever they are. And I assume Khorne will get a scenery piece as well because that's what seems to be happening these days. And they're cool, the endless spells is cool, but I find it very, very, very amusing that it was Khorne that they rolled out first rather than Slaanesh. The second Blades of Khorne book, the third Khorne battle tome since Age of Sigmar started. And meanwhile, poor Slaanesh is still waiting in the wings. But I guess that's what happens when you eat an entire world full of elves and get stomach cramps. But yeah, so that Khorne reveal was it was interesting. It was unexpected. I think everyone was ready for Slaanesh, for the big Slaanesh reveal, but they gave us Khorne instead. And I mean, thinking about it logically, I knew, I'm sure most people knew that Khorne was going to get a book, a new book with Wrath and Rapture, but it's odd that Slaanesh came first. David, I'm working on some terrain, some industrial terrain. So this is laser cut with my own laser cutter, just a plan that I got on Thingiverse. And I've been working on some terrain for Kill Team and Necromunda for the club, really, because the club's here in my amazing converted garage. But yeah, so just doing an overbrush of a mid-brown at the moment on that. But yeah, they say at least one battle tome for every Grand Alliance this year. We've already seen death in Flesh. Well, we've already seen destruction in Gloomspite Gits, and we know that death and chaos in Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven are coming. And of course, we know another Skaven book, another chaos book in Blades of Khorne. But I'm thinking there'll be 3, maybe 4 destruction books this year. I think Ogre Kingdoms will definitely get a book. And so that'll bring Gutbusters, that'll bring Beastclaw Raiders, that'll bring Man-Eaters, that'll bring all the ogres together in one book, and then that way they can fix Beastclaw Raiders. Ogres, I think, definitely will. Yeah, so I would be very, very surprised if we don't see Ogre Kingdoms. I don't know about a release of Ironjaws, but I definitely think we'll see a Greenskins book, similar to Gloomspite Gits, but with orcs. So I think Bone Splitters definitely need a look at, and Ironjaws probably need a look at as well. And so rather than doing Bone Splitters and Ironjaws, I think a Greenskins book is probably on the horizon. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that putting Iron Jaws in together with Bone Splitters and Greenskins is necessarily good for Iron Jaws. I think if they had their own battle tome that was a little bit updated with maybe a few more character options and that kind of stuff, I think that'd be good. But yeah, look, everyone's loving the Iron Jaws at the moment. Lots and lots of people are playing Iron Jaws. But yeah, so I think we'll get For Destruction. I think we'll get Ogre Kingdoms. I think we'll get Greenskins. We've already got Gloomspite Gits. And there could possibly be another one. So Games Workshop did say that there were battle tomes for both new and existing armies. So I wonder if one of the new armies is going to be a destruction army, since they've been saying this is the year of destruction. Mind you, last year was the year of death, and I guess Nighthaunt had a pretty new range. I mean, Nighthaunt is not new as a faction, but they did get a great new range, so I suppose we can count that. I think one of the new ranges that we'll see is an updated elf range. I'm saying at the moment Sons of Tyrion is what it'll be called. I don't know. It could be something completely different, but I definitely think we'll see elves. And I think we'll see elves around the same time that we see Slaanesh. So they've been doing the two battle tomes a little bit. Like last year we had Stormcast and Nighthaunt, and then they've obviously announced Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven with Carrion King. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe in the third quarter of the year we see another box set similar to what Carrion Kingdom will be. That's Slaanesh versus High Elves. And we'll get books for both of those. Could be way wrong, but that's what I think. And in terms of order, I think we will see another Stormcast book, maybe not another Stormcast book, but certainly another Stormcast chamber. And I think that'll come along with Warcry. I think we'll get something there as well. I also think they'll re-release Fire Slayers, or if they don't re-release Fire Slayers, they'll do something with Fire Slayers, whether it's combining them with Dispossessed or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they just completely re-release the Fire Slayers book. I think that's one of the ones that they will re-release. For Chaos, obviously we've seen Skaven and Khorne. I think the only other Chaos book we'll get, we'll get a Chaos Undivided or a Dark Oath book and a Slaanesh book. And the Dark Oath stuff will come with a whole bunch of new models. Not a full range, but a bunch of new ones. And Slaanesh will come with a new range of mortals. So we'll see some sort of Slaaneshi mortals on foot, similar to Kyric Acolytes and that kind of thing from the other Chaos factions. And then Death. I wouldn't be surprised if Flesh Eater Courts is the only Death book that they bring out this year. So they said at least one battle tome from each Grand Alliance. I think the one will be Death. But if they did bring out another book, oh my goodness, I would go nuts for a Soulblight book. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but a Soulblight book would be absolutely amazing. I've been playing Legion of Blood / Soulblight pretty much since I got back into the hobby and into Age of Sigmar in September 2016. I love my Blood Knights, love my vampires. I often will play with 15 Blood Knights. I've got a great list, which is Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, Vordry, a Vampire Lord, 15 Blood Knights, and then Wolves and Chain Rasps for Battle Line. And I love it. It's so much fun. That's Legion of Blood. And Vargeist are great too. I've converted a bunch of Vargeist up really using proxy models, I guess. But all the vampires, with the exception of Vordry, are females in my Soul Blight Legion of Blood. So that's cool. How you doing, Doom? You love my Legion of Blood, Dave. Yeah, no, so much fun, and I would absolutely love a Soul Blight book. I don't think it'll happen. I do think Flesh Eater Courts will be the only death book that we see this year, but it would be just unreal if we got Soul Blight. I think I am done with the Beastie Brown on this fella. So they're my predictions for Battle Tomes. I think, we'll see lots of destruction, lots of chaos, little bit of order, and not much death. Forbidden Power being the next stage in the narrative, continuing on the Soul Wars. That'll be cool. The trailer looks really interesting, and with all the cogs and all that kind of stuff, there's lots of stuff going on. But I love how narrative-driven Age of Sigmar has been from the beginning, but really in the last couple of years. Excuse me. Just how dedicated they are to the narrative, and you can't just leave it at Soul Wars. Like Nagash unleashes the Necroquake, and Nighthaunt crop up everywhere. Obviously, Sigmar and his cronies have to retaliate. Obviously, Chaos are going to retaliate. So having the narrative progress in a big way every year, which it seems like that's what they're doing, is going to be really good, really worthwhile. I think Malign Portents last year, aside from the countdown, was just such a great way of progressing that narrative, and those short stories were amazing, really good, and they seem to be doing that with 40k with Vigilus at the moment. But so it'll be great to have that narrative move along. And I'm not a huge fan of like Black Library stuff. I find most of Black Library is a little bit overwritten. I know Dadhammer Luke Stone has recommended some books to me, which I'll get stuck into it in a little while. But I struggled through Soul Wars. I struggled through the Hammerhall and other stories, or whatever it is. I still haven't finished Spear of Shadows. I struggle to get into them. But the bigger narrative stuff that Games Workshop do, the Malign Portents short stories, the stuff on their website, all that kind of stuff. I love it. I love it. It's fantastic. And I love that we are playing a game which progresses and which moves forward, which doesn't just stay stagnant. And that's a criticism I have of some other games that we've played in the club, and some other games that I've seen, is just that it's stagnant. But Age of Sigmar continues to move forward, and that is exciting. So I am all keen for Forbidden Power, very keen to see what's going on. I don't know that I have an opinion as to what it is yet. I don't think it's Cetra. Sorry, Tom from Warhammer Weekly. But I am, I'm keen to find out. Very keen for that narrative to move forward. And look, it's not going to stop me from doing any hobby projects or ideas that I already have. I think the Mortal Realms is big enough that you can basically do whatever the heck you want, no matter what's going on in the storyline. But it's cool, it's stuff that you can build armies out of. It's stuff that you can hobby toward. It's stuff that you can engage with and know that the narrative is moving forward and that everything is happening, which is cool. So I'm stoked. to see where that's going. Chat, there's not very many of you, but if you have any questions, just stick it up there and let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. So that's Forbidden Power. The other big Age of Sigmar announcement was, of course, Warcry, which is Age of Sigmar Kill Team, basically. So they hyped it up as all the best bits of Warhammer Underworld and Kill Team. Both games that I love, both games that we play fairly regularly at the club. I play Underworlds with my son as well. Josh and I play Underworlds a lot. It's a game that he can get behind. Sometimes we simplify the rules. Sometimes he wants to play with everything. It's such a fun game. It's quick, it's engaging, makes you think, and the model range is just absolutely fantastic. And Kill Team is probably the best thing to happen to Warhammer 40k since the start of 8th edition. It's a really fun game. It is really quick. And yeah, just so much fun, stacks and stacks of fun. So we have lots of fun playing it. But as Tom from Warhammer Weekly said, if Warcry is good, then we're not going to be playing Kill Team, in all honesty. But yeah, no. So Warcry, just pause there and answer Kazaki's question. My thoughts on proxies. I actually did a video on proxies. I can't pachow in a live stream, but I will leave a link below. Basically, my thoughts are similar to Doom's in that if you put in the hobby effort, you're good to go. So I generally don't proxy. Either I'll build something from scratch or I'll convert an existing model. There are a few exceptions to that though. So my Gaunt Summoner in my Tzeentch army, who's based on ISIS, the base of the model is a Witch Elf. Now, I haven't just put down a Witch Elf and said this is a Gaunt Summoner. I have an issue with that. And that's what Doom was saying in his video. I'm not a fan of putting down one model that's unconverted, it's a model, and saying that it's something else. And that's what Doom was saying. So my Gaunt Summoner, it has wings, like feathers coming out of her arms. She's holding a book. She's got the ISIS sun on her headdress. I've given her a staff, and I've done a whole bunch of converting work. But the base model is a Witch Elf, not the Gaunt Summoner. So that to me is still a proxy, right? Because it's not the original model. But that's okay. So yeah, for me, generally, if you put in the hobby time and the hobby effort, and it makes sense to be what you say it is, which is the WYSIWYG stuff that Doom was talking about. If you look at it and you say, okay, I can see Witch Elf there, but I understand that that's a Gaunt Summoner. I can make that connection. Another example is my Vargeist, which are made up of Witch Elves, Tyrannid Gargoyles, and Demonettes. And so they're much, much smaller than regular Vargeist. But I've put them up on horses and knights, like one's flying down and is with its feet talons, grabbing the shoulders of a knight riding a horse and is about to take off with it. So the model itself is the same size as a Vargeist in terms of height, and is on the same base. And while the Vargeist itself is much smaller than a Vargeist model, the model itself is about the same size. And you can look at it, and it's a mean, scary, vampiroid thing with wings. And so you can see that it's a Vargeist, particularly since I run it in Soulblight. what I did do with that particular conversion is I actually asked the community. I put photos of the conversions up on the death page that Deke Johnson runs on Facebook. May have put it on Twitter, and everyone was super positive about it. I said, would you play against this model as a Vargeist? And most people were super positive. Not only did they say they would, they said they'd love to because they really like the conversion. Okay, now whether I could pull that off at a tournament or not, that's entirely up to the tournament organizer. And I personally would have no issue taking those to tournaments. I would have no issue playing against those at tournaments, but that it just comes down to what the organizer wants. And I'm a hobbyist before I'm a gamer, and so I'm always going to do these kind of conversions. I'm always going to use other models as the basis for the model that I want to play it. But one thing I'll never do is take a model and say that it's another model. Even the whole Dragon Blades as Blood Knights. Seriously, put in some effort. Painting Dragon Blades red does not make them Blood Knights. Because what happens if you come up against an army that has Dragon Blades in them? There's going to be some confusion there. And I mean, it's not going to be a huge amount of confusion. I think most people will be able to tell what models are what. But I think out of respect for your opponent, I think it's really important to put the effort in. Anyway, that was a nice little sidetrack. What were we talking about before we got into that discussion? That's all right. We're talking about Warcry. So Kill Team is a great game. Underworld is a great game. And I am fully convinced that Warcry is going to be a great game as well. What I'm excited most about Warcry, though, is not the game itself. And it will be a good game if the people who wrote Kill Team and Underworlds are working on this one. It will be a good game. But what I'm most excited about is I have so many ideas for armies, right? For Age of Sigmar, so many things that float around my head, so many units that I look at and I'm like, oh, that would be awesome to do this with, or even models that I don't even want to convert. I just want to grab and paint. So much stuff, but I just don't have the time and the effort to make armies out of them, right? Or even just paint them and put them on my shelf. What Warcry is going to give me the ability to do is take models from certain ranges, convert my heart out, put so much love and time into them, and at the end of the day, I'm only doing it for 10 models. So firstly, it's not going to be a huge expense. Excuse me. Although depending on converting and modeling ideas, but it's not going to be a huge expense. It's not going to be a huge expenditure of time like an entire army would be, and I get to do the things that I want on more or less the models that I want. So I was talking about at the start of the show how I did a test model for Flesh Eater Courts, and I wasn't sold on it across an entire army. I'm going to do it for Warcry, like if I'm only having to do 10, 15 models, then I'm down for it. I'm totally down for it. I had an idea in 40K they had during the Eye of Terror campaign, or around that time anyway, they had a Space Wolves chapter that were the 13th company, or company I should say, that were like lost in the Chaos Void or whatever, and they had bits of, they're a little bit chaotic, but not like full chaos, but they had like bits of chaos armor on them and like stuff that they just scrounged. And I mean, if that doesn't lend itself to Stormcast in Warcry, where they're where it's set at the all points, this place that's overrun by chaos, a group of Stormcast lost there and having to scrounge bits of armor from from Blood Reavers or whatever it is, and that's going to be cool. I've been wanting to do Stormcast for a while, but not wanting to pull the trigger on an entire army. So I'm totally going to do that for Warcry. That'll be really, really cool. So all these little ideas that pop into my head, models, things that I want to do, it's just going to be absolutely awesome for Warcry. See you, Doom. Have a good night, mate. So I'm really stoked on that. I think that's going to be a cracker of a game, just to really sink my teeth in, because we play Mordheim in the club a fair bit. We haven't played for a while, but we had a campaign that ran for about a year. We really like Mordheim, and I hope that there's a campaign system with Warcry. I think there will be, and I sincerely hope there will be. I don't know that it's going to be Mordheim in the depth of the campaign system. I don't know that Games Workshop are sort of going to commit to that, at least in the short term. But I can definitely see there being a campaign system with it. And the great thing about Mordheim is that story progression and the modeling opportunities that it allows, where you've got a small number of models that grow and change, warbands that change. Like my pirates have gone through so many changes, and my captain lost my first mate lost a leg, so I cut it off and put a peg leg on it. Look, Kazaki, unless you're playing Mordheim, you're not going to get to use your Kislevite warband again. That's not something that Games Workshop are going to do, I'm afraid. But yeah, like we play Mordheim all the time, so why not bring them along? What was I saying? The modeling opportunities are just great. So yeah, one of my first mates got a severe leg injury, so I just cut his leg off and put a peg leg on. I love that. I love it so much. And if there's a campaign system with Warcry, I tell you what, I am all in. All in to the point where I don't know where I'll get Age of Sigmar games going if it's really good, because I love skirmish games. They're so much fun, and the modeling opportunities are great. I'm all sold on Warcry. I don't know that I'll touch on anything else from LVO. The 40k stuff. Abaddon's coming back. Okay, that Shadespire warband. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I haven't picked up, aside from the box set, I haven't picked up any of the other Night Vault warbands yet, and I won't until I paint all my Shadespire warbands. But they're all right. They're okay. And the 40k stuff looks cool too, but I have very, very little interest in 40k, unfortunately. But yeah, that's LVO. So I'm just going to shift my attention very briefly. I've been wanting to run a small tournament in the region for quite some time. Calling it Country Carnage, and it's going to be in Tamworth. I had the date set, I had everything, the ball was rolling, but I just couldn't lock down a venue. So I had to postpone it, had to take it off the calendar, which was sad. And I am having all sorts of trouble trying to lock down a venue. They're either too expensive, too small, not available, or not interested in what we're doing. The club in Tamworth plays out of the community centre in the evenings. But do you think I can book the community center for all day on a Saturday? It's just it's not happening. I'm hoping. I've got one more place that I'm following through at the moment, which I'm hoping will be able to accommodate us. If they can't, I might need to change to Armidale, because I know I can get venues up in Armidale. I know what's there. I have friends in Armidale. I have family in Armidale. I have people that will possibly even give me venues for free in Armidale. I wanted to go Tamworth because it's close enough to firstly, there's more Age of Sigmar players in Tamworth than there are in Armidale. It's the same distance for us in Moree to go to Tamworth or Armidale, and it's only an hour for people in Armidale to travel up. So it seems like the best place. But if I can't get a venue, I can't get a venue there. But look, it's definitely happening, and I'm looking either the first or second week in April, which is only a month and a half away. But pretty much everything except for the venue is sorted. I've got the player pack ready to go. I'm working on terrain. I've got bits of other terrain lined up. I've got tables lined up. So everything is pretty much good to go except for the venue. So hopefully we can crack that down in the next week or so. Otherwise, I'll have to push it back again and probably shift it to Armidale. I'm only looking for 20 players. And I think between Moree, Tamworth and Armidale, I think we can get 20 players. I'm not expecting people to travel for this one, except, from Moree to Tamworth and from Armidale to Tamworth. And in fact, I would love to keep it local. I'd love to encourage our local gaming communities here in Moree and in Armidale and in Tamworth, even in Gunnedah, and I think there might be a club in Inverell as well. They're not on Facebook, but I think they exist. So yeah, I'd love to be able to encourage local clubs and run a cool little one-day tournament. So that's happening. When and where is to be determined. It is a beautiful part of the world, Dave. I very much enjoy living here. So that's Country Carnage. It's happening. When and where is still TBD. But I am excited for it, and I'm very much excited for encouraging the local community. It's going to be 1,500 points, 2 battle lines, no restrictions on monsters. Really going to push it for fun. Fully painted armies, of course, but soft scores will be a big thing. So the better the better painted your armies are, the more points you're going to get. I'm not going to be taking any armies off the table because I really just want to keep it relaxed and fun. But I'm definitely putting a large amount of tournament points to make sure that people's armies are painted. And we're just going 1,500 points. One, just to be a bit different, and two is because a lot of people in all three communities, Tamworth, Moree, and Armidale, have only been playing Age of Sigmar for a little while. A lot of them have only been into tabletop war games for a little while, and so 1,500 points is an army that can be fully painted in a relatively short time. That extra 500 points can really make a difference, and I want the games to go a little bit quicker as well, just so we can fit 3 games into a day without rushing and without feeling like we're not getting games finished and that kind of stuff. So 1,500 points, 2 battle line, and no limits to monsters, which will be cool. So that's Country Carnage. So in terms of what is coming up for the channel, I'm going to do these videos in lieu of my regular Saturday video, probably once a month. Build up some stuff to talk about so I can sit here and talk for an hour, although I can probably talk war dollies for an hour fairly easily at any time. But yeah, I'll probably do these once a month. Trying to get topic of the weeks done on Tuesdays, but it's been quite difficult. This week's topic of the week is Warcry, so I will almost certainly do one for that. But the goal is to get topic of the weeks on Tuesday, and then hobby progress and games played on Saturday, as well as any topics that may come up on the Saturday, and then these long terms once a week. I'm also going to try to get some hobby videos done for Doom and Darkness. So maybe once a month, probably on Mondays, I'm going to do some hobby content for Doom. Doom does a lot of gaming content, a lot of battle reports and list reviews and all that kind of stuff. So I think it would be great for his channel to have a little bit of hobby content. So I'll be doing some tutorials and that kind of stuff. Maybe talk about narratives in games and that kind of stuff over on Doom's channel once a month. So that'll be cool. It'll be cool for me. It'll be cool for Doom. It will be cool for everyone, hopefully. So that's what I've got planned. If there's anything in particular that you guys want me to talk about or cover in future videos, any opinions that you want me to share, I'm more than happy to do it. Just flick it down in the comments or send me an email, theaussiewargamer@gmail.com. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm Aussie Wargamer on Twitter, or that's basically it. Before we wrap up, just want to give a couple of shout outs. Some really cool content that I've been consuming lately, some great hobby content. And the first is the 2Ps podcast. They're a great podcast that talk about 40K and Age of Sigmar, as well as Middle-earth strategy battle game and a variety of other tabletop war games. Really fun guys. Great, really great content, great hobbyers. Ben got his Soul Wars box on Warhammer Community not long ago, which was cool. And they gave me a shout out on their latest episode for my Bretovaneth army that I took to CanCon. They were quite enamored by it, so I'm glad that they liked it, and I'm more than happy to shout them out because that's a fantastic podcast. So it's called 2Ps in a Pod, or the 2Ps podcast. But I think if you search 2Ps in a Pod, it should come up. So that's a fantastic little podcast. Really enjoying that. So that's really, really good. And then the other podcast that I've been getting into, and do mention them as well, is Bush Radio. They're a bit rough around the edges, a bit crude at times, but really fun guys to listen to. Great hobby insight. So I've been enjoying their stuff lately as well. Well, that just about wraps it up, I think. I don't have anything else on my list to talk about. Thanks for the couple of people that hung in there from the start. And thanks for everyone that will watch this when it is no longer live. If you enjoyed the chat, if you enjoyed listening to me talk for an hour instead of 5 minutes, do let me know. If you're not gonna watch the content, then I'm more than happy to not do them and do something else. But if you enjoy it, Again, I love talking Warhammer, and I will do it for a long time to come. My wife doesn't care, and I talk to her about it all the time. So thanks, Dave. See you, mate. And I think that's all from me. As always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned if you want to hear more of my voice. Catch us later.